and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts Amanda and Luke and Brian. And today we're going to be talking about Season 3 of The Bad Batch, specifically Episode 13. I think it's Episode 13. Yeah, it is. Into the Breach. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. We're into the new flow, y'all. We have 4 hosts every week. Then this week we're joined Amanda. We're the 2 OGs, and now we have Luke Bryan on the show. We officially made it.
The chosen one is here.
Heck yeah,
Finally,
this should really boost our SEO.
Yeah.
Just like make it look like a grammatical error, like, oh, we forgot a comma. A Star Wars podcast featuring
Brian
Luke
has to
Bryan.
spell his name differently too now.
Yeah,
it was already so hard to remember. Brian. What am I gonna do?
Too many letters.
What can you do? Speaking of things that are forgettable, who knows what happened in this week's episode? Duel or the it's not, the beach? I don't even know what show I was watching. It wasn't that forgettable. It was actually all right. It's who wants to tell us and the audience what happened in Into the Breach?
Amanda, do you have a synopsis ready, or should we just?
I do.
Want me to just improv it.
I have it.
You want to just start saying things?
On Tantus, Omega gets to know the other captive M-Count children. With their help, she maps the area and plots their escape via hidden maintenance corridors. Meanwhile, the Bad Batch devises a plan to sneak aboard an Imperial orbital station and access the location of Tantus, with the begrudging assistance of their prisoner, the former Vice Admiral Rampart.
Crazy
I
stuff.
liked this episode more than I liked last week's episode.
I didn't think it had to do that much to be better than last week's episode.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
just saying,
we got somewhere. We actually got somewhere this episode, and the best part about this show consistently ends up being Omega for me. And my favorite part was just seeing her in her confidence, totally by herself now, out of her element, and she's like, that's okay, I like a challenge, like I'm going to break us all out of here, and she's just playing it so cool, and she's just grown up so much.
Yeah, I love that she's playing the big sister role.
Yes.
Yeah,
she's getting all crafty with it.
You predicted that was going to happen like ages ago, that she was going to go back and free the slaves, be what Anakin should have been. I think Luke also said that too. So
I did not say that.
Oh, well, then
I said that my whole thing is with Omega. I think, and this has been a new kind of thing that a lot of people have kind of grasped onto. They think she's gonna end up going with Ventress and going on with the path with Reva and Quinlan. Because as we know in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, the best show that's ever been created, not a senseless plug or anything, that the paths that Quinlan is still around, and he's helping with the path. He's helping getting the younglings out, and it feels like we're going to get that show because the showrunner for Bad Batch, Jennifer Corbin, I think is her name, she said that there's going to be a lot more, and Delilah S. Dawson, who wrote Dark Disciple, the story with Ventress and Quinlan, said that there's going to be more Ventress content down the pipeline. So it leads me to believe that we are going to get a show, and Omega is going to learn. I as much as I hated it, I said it last week, I don't think we need her to be a Jedi. Mm-hmm. I don't think everybody in the galaxy needs to be a Jedi that is Force sensitive. They can just be Force sensitive. AKA Chirrut, Baze, like both of them, or yeah, exactly. Like they don't.
Like it's a recessive gene, like.
Yeah, like you don't like it, but like here's the other thing. Like I could also see Ventress teaching her, and then they do it that way, kind of giving Ventress her overall arc, right? Because she started as Sith assassin, she left that. And then went to being just a bounty hunter. And then she ended up turning into like a middle ground Jedi / not Gray Jedi, because that term is not
Just
real
a
and it doesn't exist.
Force user.
Yeah, she's a good Force user.
NPC.
And then she at the end of her story, she trains Omega, and it comes full circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
I think
originally, she actually was a Jedi at first. I think a lot of people forget
Yes.
that little flashback in the Clone Wars too, that she does have Jedi training. She wasn't like super
She
in the
didn't make it
order.
through her training though,
No,
right?
because her master was killed by
Yeah.
a bounty
Right.
hunters.
And her master was more of a lone wolf, as far as I remember. He wasn't.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So
Mhm.
she's got a very interesting backstory, a lot of different influences, like the Night Sisters especially. I'm hoping we see a lot of that. And my biggest
Morgan
hope
Elsbeth.
with like, yeah, exactly. With Tales of the Jedi coming out too, like right after this show ends, I'm really hoping that Barriss will leave the Inquisitorius and go with them. And because I don't think Barriss. I think Barriss needs a huge redemption arc. I don't think
She's gonna get got.
she's gonna get.
No, she really is, because if you think about it, like, Anakin Skywalker's not gonna forget what she did to frame Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
That man is petty as hell. So.
Which is funny because he's like goes after Ahsoka. So
Yeah.
gosh, Anakin,
But
you're so
anyway,
annoying.
I could see Vader trying to kill her, and she gets away, and she ends up, joining Ventress and Quinlan. I was really hoping that all that would tie more into, like, we would see the continuation in the Jedi games more so than any TV show or anything. I really don't see the need to keep going back to the Jedi in the media when we already have an incredible franchise going that's exactly
Agreed.
about this.
Agreed.
I think
we should keep it, especially for Bad Batch. We need to keep it with the clones. I think adding Jedi stuff right now, this late in the game, is very risky unless they're going to be a part of destroying Tantus at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I am just like overall disappointed in this season as a whole. I remember how excited I was on the first couple episodes where I was like, I love the darkness, and I still love that theme throughout this season. This is still like the best season of the Bad Batch, but in the way that it was set up, I was really hoping that we were going to get more of the like clone connection or some type of like new technology and advancement that like leads us into more of the path, like, or even just sprinkles of that throughout, other than just having like Asajj be, just a guest appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they kind of dropped the ball. I think one way they could have sort of built this through line is to have those M-Count children. Maybe in each episode, we saw one of them out of context abducted, kind of like how we saw the little guy abducted in this season. And then we would have been like, what are they doing? Or we have an inkling that they're finding those Force sensitive children, because we also know that falls into like the Jedi survivor realm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just feel like they're missing out on an opportunity to tell even part of a bigger story. It's still just meandering a little too much.
Yeah.
So I think.
You would have gotten that increasing tension throughout the season if you kind of seen like, oh, this problem is getting bigger and bigger. Like they're going to need to do something outside of the Bad Batch. And
now we have to conclude it. So let's all put it all together.
Yeah, no, it super made me cringe editing like the earlier episodes when we were reviewing the season 3. I'm like, okay, Brody, they're about to start cooking. And then like now I'm still saying the same thing. It's okay. They're about to start cooking. I'm like, at some point they absolutely could have cooked a little bit more. Like y'all are
They're
saying
about to
you wanted
cook
to see
ramen, which only takes 3 minutes to make.
Apparently, unless the rumor is that the finale is going to be like an hour long. And I think that's the only way to like, I don't know, make it super interesting or to really make it have a lot of weight. Because as much as I love like Omega, I'm kind of not caring as much about the Bad Batch because we haven't really even gotten to see them do things that are super special and unique to their characters other than Crosshair. Like the rest of them have been kind of boring.
I will say this to Brian's point. I think that this season so far has been pretty good compared to the other two. And I've got a really spicy hot take that has something to do with the Clone Wars. But like it's they have so much to tell in the next 2 episodes that it's going to have to pay off, because you have to have the answers to where's Tantus at, at the time. Where does Exegol fit in all of this? What's gonna happen? Because we know the Empire, they always have setbacks, no matter what. Like the Death Star gets blown up. Oh man, okay, it's a setback. Oh, but we can go to our next plan. So it's just like, how is this going to set back? Because if Palpatine had all the things now that he needed, he would have been able to make his plan a lot easier in the sequel trilogy. He wouldn't have had to go through all these loops and all these headaches if he would have if Tantus would have been successful. So it's like, where are we going to get with that? Are we going to get Omega? Because obviously Omega's going to get out with those kids. And I think that's where it leads to Ventress and the Path. I think that's where, and that's going to be.
Yeah, Ventress is stuck with all these kids, and she's like, "What the hell am I going to do?"
Yes, and because of Quinlan, I think Omega is going to escape in the Bad Batch. She's going to see the demise of the Bad Batch, and that's going to be her kind of let go moment as like a Jedi, if you want to put it. And that's what's going to lead her to
like her life mission.
In their life mission, in their name, in the Bad Batch's name. I'm going to save these Jedi. I'm going to get them away from these situations.
Well, and then she also becomes like sort of a monument to all of the clones too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They having been known as the Jedi murderers, like literally they over half, if not all, the Jedi were murdered by clones. So
honestly, that's an interesting point, that we don't see some of that like somewhat racism or like bagging on them as part of I mean, there's a little bit of that like between like Cody and Rex and like some of that as far as like which side are you on, but as far as like public perception of them, that would be interesting to even see like anti-clone propaganda.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the propaganda that you saw was only in that small arc of the Clone Wars with Barriss Offee. Like, and that was the only thing that you could really see. But like,
and Palpatine's speech, maybe.
Yeah, you also have to remember that the Empire flipped. Like, they flipped the script right then and there when Mace Windu attacked them. That's what the public knew. And that narrative had been flipped on its head right away. That's why you don't see a whole lot of anti-establishment against Palpatine in those first couple of years until you get to Rebels. Because then some folks start to see what is going on behind the curtain. And then they finally reach out and they get together, and then obviously the original trilogy happens, and there you go. But like, it's going to be interesting, because I feel like that's the only way that we're going to get that story is if the batch all go down, and they will. That's just I hate saying it, but
let's hope.
You also have to remember Rex, Wolf, and Gregor are the only ones that we know of, besides not Fives, the one that gets captured and is in the sequel trilogy. He gets I can't remember his name.
Someone in the 501st.
Yeah, he survives. But like, those are like the only 3 clones that we know of that are around.
Right.
So we've got big players of the Bad Batch. Where are they at if they survive? Where's Cody? There's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up in 2 episodes. So it's gonna be.
Do you think they can do it, Brody?
No. I mean, and if they do, it will be as clunky as the ending of Obi-Wan, where they're just like, all right, we got to fit in Qui-Gon Jinn, we got to fit in the Force theme, we got to fit in hello there, we have to fit in like all that stuff in like a 2-minute thing.
I know, it's like the clone mystery guy is going to take off his helmet and he's going to be like, oh, look, I'm Tech. And then he's going to blow up. And then we're going to be like, oh, see, look, it was Tech. But look, oh, they all died. So it's like,
and then it's going to be like, really oh, look. And then there was Cody, who was there to help us all along. And then here's this guy. And hey, remember this clone that like Yoda decapitated in The Revenge of the Sith? Well, turns out he had 2 heads. You weren't asking about him, but here he is anyways. Here's needless stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. Look, I enjoyed this episode. I gave it a 70%. It's fine. I'm enjoying the show overall. But if this is, you're trying to simmer, like if it was kind of just simmering this whole season, and you're trying to get yourself up to a point where it's hot. And now we're into the last 2 episodes. It's like you should have been working up for like the last 4 or 5 to be hot. Now we're
if it's
here, and
anything
it's like,
big.
it's just too late. I'm not
Yeah.
bought into the finale. Don't get me wrong. I'll watch it. I'm enjoying myself. It's a fun show, but it feels like a lot of wasted potentials.
A lot of treading water is kind of how I described it. Like, I would probably rather have a season more like season 2 that has more fun filler and interesting things happening than just kind of recircling around the same plot points, blue balling you, for lack of a better term.
They could have just storylined it better, you know.
We could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. If the finale is like epic and huge and they get to the Clone Rebellion and they wrap up all these plot lines, then great. But if they're just setting up for another show, it feels a lot like Ahsoka to me, where it's like, man, there's so many cool things they could be doing, but they're just stretching it out for as long as they can. And that's the definition. That's a worst kind of filler to me, is stretching out this story like butter scraped over too much bread. You know, is kind of the way it's feeling it now. But I think 2 episodes left. They have the potential to, you know, clean it up.
I also can we also talk about Rampart and how he was a light. He was probably the best part of this episode. Just him with the quickie, like, I hate clones.
I hate clones.
and
it's like
not want to be a
captain. I'm not a captain. I was a vice admiral. And it's like, dude, you've been out of the Empire for how long now? You reject. You got flipped on your own head by the head boy himself. Like, what? Yeah. What gives you, like, you think you deserve that? Like, what? No.
I love how Echo is like, you're demoted.
You've been
demoted. You're demoted. But like, all the clones really, I think they shined in this. A lot of the clones had their moments. Echo had his moment. Wrecker, obviously, he's the comic relief. He did his job.
On the ship,
is so. I like, honestly, if I was any of the Bad Batch, I think I'm Wrecker. I'm for sure the big dumb doof that is good in a punch, and like it. I just
blowing stuff up. Yeah,
I like to blow stuff up. I like to blow stuff up, and so it's just I love Wrecker. I think Crosshair. I think Crosshair got some lines. I think he was the one that was a little bit sidelined more in this episode. Hunter had his piece. Rampart was the big show. I think here he stole it for sure, but. No, I thought it was a really solid episode. I mean, they've got 2 more episodes left. I don't think it's going to be an hour long. I think both episodes are going to be 25 minutes each. So it's going to be closer to 15 minutes. It just animation. There's only been a handful of times where they've done 2 episodes at once, and that would be your hour episode right there. 15 minutes to an hour.
I would say that. The episode ended on a really great note, though, that felt very Star Wars-y, where it's like them trying to pull off a very risky maneuver, like just to get it like right at the nick of time, which was a perfect like end note to go into the final couple episodes.
Can we also talk
cool ending for sure? And I like the tension. The whole episode was sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
I do have to appreciate, like, I was really engaged this episode. Like, even though I'm kind of crapping on the story, like, it was one of the more like intense and well edited episodes I felt.
Yeah. I also gotta give a shout out again to the Kiners. Like right off the bat, like after the whole intro, they went boom, just like straight. I was like, okay, here we go. Like
they've been cooking.
They do, like, there's only a handful of Star Wars musicians that I like, or folks that haven't done Star Wars that I think should do Star Wars. Barry McCreary, the Game of Thrones.
You said Mariah Carey?
No, Bear McCreary.
Oh.
Chuck
Bear McCreary, who did Rings of Power and
cut out for me for a second.
Battlestar Galactica.
I thought you said Jim Carrey, and I was like,
Jim Carrey. I was Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey in Skeleton Crew as like an alien.
Oh my god,
that's a good idea.
I would love Jim Carrey.
That would be great. No, like
Skeleton Crew? Is that a show that exists? Is
Not
that
yet.
yeah, I know. It's like nobody knows anything about it. It's been in the can for almost 6 months. They're
okay?
probably they were finished. They were finished when we were in London this year, so they've been done for over a year. That show's been in the can over a year. If it weren't for the strikes, that show would have been out already. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Yeah, it just gives them more time to do post-production, touch things up. But no, I the Kiners can do no wrong. That's why they got Ahsoka. That's why they're getting more opportunities to do these things, and they're just knocking out of the park. I think every single week, I think the most consistent thing is the music. Like it's always on point, no matter what episode, no matter what's going on. The tone and the music itself is the best part of this show, in my opinion.
Since you brought that up, I'm looking at our scorecard right now, and among all of the categories that we rank, the story, characters, technical aspects, music, and immersive universe, we all did rank the music the highest part of this episode. And everything ended up totaling at a 72.93. So how do we feel about that?
Yeah. It's good enough to enjoy while you're watching it, but like as a contributor to a larger arc, like, yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to specifically want to like, I want to rewatch that one, or that one was like a really big deal, you know?
No, yeah.
So I mean, that feels fair.
It just moves the plot forward. It moves the plot forward. It gets us.
Yes, which we couldn't have said for last week's episode for the most part. So
I mean,
I disagree. I think like both of them are pretty equally like they could have written this into and as well as the one before it, right? Or at least like the Fennec Shand episode. Like a lot of these episodes, you could have written around it and done something more interesting instead. Like I don't think they're moving the plot forward in the sense that they're quintessential story beats.
It just doesn't feel like a final season.
Yeah, not yet.
I mean,
I'll hold my reservations till the end, but
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously they're all gonna die. So
is that obvious? Is that obvious?
No, it is. It is. Like, how are you going to have the Bad Batch be around and not be part of the rebellion? Give me a good explanation of that, because the rebellion would have been
a big rebellion. There's a lot of different factions, a lot of different splinters.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But they would have been a big galaxy. But then they could have also like. But here's the other thing: if they survive, like, it changes the whole game, because it's like, okay, so you're gonna tell me that after whatever happens, Hunter's not like, okay, we've done all we've wanted, which he did say in the second season. He's like, we want to set up a point, because they made it a point in the second season that Pabu was going to be their end game.
Right.
Like that was going to be their end game. If that's truly their end game, after seeing all of their brothers get destroyed, all of this and that, and how they're all treated, something's got to happen, because Rex doesn't join the rebellion right away, and we all know that. So, like, what's going on? If they're gonna survive, then make narrative sense.
Yeah, I mean, Pabu's already off the table because the Empire discovered it.
Yep.
Like that was why it was a safe haven at first. Yeah. So Pabu's off the table. Dying seems like the most appropriate option for them.
Yeah.
It's foolproof.
There's just some people I don't really want to see die, because for them, I think the biggest thing is I just want their story to matter, and I'd love to see it keep going. So there's like
who?
Yeah.
Any of the Bad Batch, just get me to care a little. I don't care if any of them die. And so I don't usually, like, me, like I'm like okay with certain characters dying in shows, and like unless you want to count Omega, she's the only character that like they can kill off, because like I'll somewhat feel something. But like they could take the dude with the baseball bat from Walking Dead, and he could just beat on any of those Bad Batch, and I'd be like, what was his name again?
Negan.
No, any of the Bad Batch.
Oh,
yeah, yep. And I'd be like, Negan's just taking the bats. You see, he's memorable. We all know his name.
We know Negan.
We know his story. The thing is, like, I don't know.
Hemlock's that guy.
You think he's got that in him? Man, that dude looks soft.
No.
I'm excited for Omega's escape. She's going to get real scrappy. And even last time she was stun people on her way out to escape. So I think, is Omega going to get like a kill in the next couple episodes?
I don't know it because here's the thing: like the batch have been, if you've noticed, they've been stunning a lot of people.
I know it's boring.
They haven't been for
Crosshair
Jesus.
usually shoots.
No wonder Rogue One is up so high for you guys.
Exactly.
I don't care about any characters.
No.
Amanda wants Omega to die.
No,
she wants the most heart-wrenching.
She wants the child to die. It just goes back to my fascist comment from last week. Come on, where does it end? Where does it end? Now we want children to die? Come on,
I just want something to happen. I don't want children to die. I just want I want me to care about characters, and Omega's the only one I care about. So like if she died, maybe something would happen. Like I thought maybe they started making Echo interesting and they killed him off, and I'm like, all right, maybe this whole thing's gonna be interesting from here on out. And
you mean Techo?
Yeah, Tech.
Tech.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I forgot his name.
And like, here's the thing: like, up to that point, like, oh yeah, Tech's getting a lot of FaceTime this season. It's like, ooh, that doesn't bode well.
Uh-oh.
So, and here's the thing: we haven't, besides Omega and Crosshair, the other 3 Bad Batchers have not had a ton of just alone FaceTime.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, a little Echo this episode doing his thing because he had to save, but like that's small. But like,
so nobody dies.
No, I think everybody dies for that reason. There's not a specific. They're splitting up the time to where it's almost even. You know what I mean? Everybody's on screen for about the same amount of time, minus Crosshair and Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all there is to this show? We're just waiting for it to end, or characters just die. Is there nothing like that's what the end of this show feels like? It feels like someone that's just on life support, and the family never made the decision whether or not beforehand they should pull the plug. So everyone's just kind of waiting around, just like do something.
God, this is a really depressing episode.
Wow. What a downer.
Man, wow.
No, I kind of hope, part of me does kind of hope that Bad Batch sucks so I can just go to bat for Rebels being the best Star Wars show.
Make it, easy. Yeah. Well, in my mind, it's nowhere close
Andor.
to beating out Rebels or Andor.
Andor is the best, Star Wars
but
ever.
The thing is,
and that's not
Andor
even debatable.
Concluded,
I'm a Kenobi stan, and I will say that Andor is the #1 show. Movie, still Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that's
Andor
hasn't stuck the landing yet. It could have it. It does flop.
I doubt it. But let's be real here. Tony Gilroy, anything that he touches has been solid. Rogue One, solid. Came in and did rewrites for Rogue One. Killed it with Andor season 1. The only thing that they missed on was letting Marta, not say the F word. Because that was originally going to be said. She's going to say F the Empire. That would have been hilarious. Instead, they didn't let her.
Fight the Empire. It was still a powerful speech.
It was still a very good scene. But like Bad Batch, where honestly, this season of the Bad Batch has been the best season so far, in my opinion. I've cared about it more. I think after Tech dying in season 2, it's like, oh wow. Okay, so now we're in this game. Because if you really think about it, there were some deaths in Clone Wars and Rebels, like Kanan dying, that really changed the stakes. In Clone Wars, there were 5s, but there weren't a ton of like memorable like character. Even Peel, that's one that sticks out in my mind. There's not a ton of them though that are just like holy crap. So
there are some arcs that are like characters don't have to die for it to be a good story or to be emotionally impactful. Like the Umbara arc, I'm really hoping that they at least reference it in some point. Like that's why I'm convinced that Cody is the assassin.
He is.
Like it's the only way that that's the only character that's not Tech that it would make sense that they kept him alive for this long is for him to have this existential conflict with Rex. I really want to see them also struggle with this like guilt about killing the Jedi. Like that's something we haven't really touched on. I think Cody like maybe hints at some regret and stuff when he's talking to Crosshair in season 2, but like we need to give some kind of weight to it. Like that was the whole.
No, I agree. They need to bring Cody back to where his arc is officially done, and I think Rex has to kill him. I think he has to be. He has to be the one to put him down.
That's all there is. Just someone's death. Somebody die.
That's what it is, though. Like that's
we want blood.
That's what you have set up, though. Like that's all this show is right now.
This show, the only interesting. Okay, this is so sad. We're at the very end, and the only thing that's interesting is Omega.
Mm-hmm.
None of them have been interesting for 3
Hemlock's interesting.
seasons.
Hemlock is interesting.
Hemlock I think is interesting.
Any of the Bad Batch. All right,
he's creepy. Fine. I don't know if I would call him too interesting. In fact, I just learned that he's the actor that plays Liam McPoyle in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and now I just can't not imagine his face when Hemlock's talking. I can't take him seriously anymore.
Did you guys know that the fat guy from that one episode was voiced by the actor who was Viserys Targaryen in the first season of Game of Thrones, the brother?
Which big guy are you talking about?
The guy who, when Omega is doing the betting with the Imperial, the Fat Imperial.
Oh,
the Fat Imperial is voiced by the actor who played Viserys Targaryen in the first season of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Fun little nugget there.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say about this show or this season. I mean, I guess let it die, let them die. And let's move on to the next thing. That's all we're really. I mean, we've taken 31 minutes just to say that.
I think the Andor influence has never been more palpable than in this episode, right? With the overhead shot of Tandem. I think that was really cool. But it also got me thinking, like, man, maybe we gave Andor like too much praise. No, not that we gave it too much praise. It is like a perfect, beautiful, gorgeous, amazing piece of media. I'm not taking away from the quality of that show, but like I think, and I've always felt this like since episode 8, that Disney listens too much to the fans, that they take the specific complaints and the specific praises, and then they just like base their entire marketing, their entire wherever they're heading with the story off of that. And that's why episode 8 was such a reaction to episode 7 and vice versa with episode 9. And I think like our praise for Andor has definitely influenced the Bad Batch a lot, but it kind of feels like it's like distinctly not a kids show anymore. So like that's also like a kind of conflicting feeling I have that I wanted to ask you about. Like, is this really a kids show? Like tonally, like kids are going to be so depressed if they grow up with this.
I think it's more, well, think about the Clone Wars. Clone Wars is as violent, has more undertones of adult stuff than Bad Batch.
Violence, but not the tone. The tone of Clone Wars is still goofy as hell. It's still like super light and fun. And
at some points, but most of it, Mortis
is not most of the show. People forget that Mortis and Umbara are not most of the show.
But those are the biggest tones, though. That's the thing. Like there are moments like when Anakin's kicking the shit out of Clovis. That's also like there are serious tones within Clone Wars that are also in Bad Batch.
And there's also the droid arc.
Yeah, but like it has its moments, but like I think kids are just let's look at the world that we're living in.
Yeah.
What's so different than saying what's going on in the news?
It's a show with the word war in it.
Yeah, and politics and everything like that. Like it's all like there's not much different. You know what I mean? I think it'll teach kids to like look at a different perspective. And Star Wars has always had that mindset of, hey, not everybody is the same, right? We all have different perspectives. Mm-hmm. Let's look at it it's like being able to sit down and be able to have these conversations of, well, Amanda likes The Last Jedi, but I think The Last Jedi sucks, and but we agree to disagree. And I feel like that's the part where
I want to fight you right now.
Where fandoms just absolutely don't understand that, and they never will, because you have the grifters, you have the folks that just want to take over the narrative, and then you just have the people that just want to make money off of being negative, because that sells.
It gets clicks. Yeah,
it does. It plays. It very much plays. But no, I think it is a kid's show. I think I guess what's the definition of a kid then? That's also another thing. Like,
That's true.
Is it from age 10 and up?
I don't know. At what age would y'all show this show to your kids? Have them or not?
I'd say 10. I think by 10 I was seeing Revenge of the Sith at 10.
Yeah, I was not allowed.
I feel like 7 or 8.
It's also Star Wars. Like I feel like it's fiction. It's not like you're taking them to go see Saving Private Ryan at 10 or Gladiator. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's fantasy. It's lightsabers. Most of the gore is seeing blaster bolts that are frying. There's no blood. You see an arm cut off. There's no blood. Like, I feel like there's a distinction between, like, if you were able to see somebody get their head chopped off or like there's blood squirting everywhere like Game of Thrones, they wouldn't be able to watch that until like 16, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's not like it's good to have adult tones because kids are starting to get those adult tones and adult scenarios a lot younger nowadays. Yeah. And I think it's an important thing to have these stories be able to touch kids and be able to look at it and say, oh, wow, this is just how Crosshair felt when having to deal with a boss that's not very nice, doesn't treat him correctly.
And I do like how they're sprinkling in messages about mental health and like meditation and things like that. That is very valuable for sure, for kids especially, that they're more recommended.
Yeah, I think this is still a kid's show at heart. The animation is still for kids, but like, let's be real here. Rebels had some intense moments. Like animation can have undertones of adult to it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Undertone's a very different word than I would absolutely describe it as overtones in Bad Batch. Like, even the most like inconsequential episodes this season have still been super dark and like tense. I don't know. I still think there's a very big difference between violence and dark tone, you know? And I think like Rebels is able to like have a heavy, weighty story towards the end where you're coping with loss and all these things like that, but it still remains like, you know, rooted in the original trilogy vibe of it. This is a swashbuckling story of, you know, a ragtag family that's trying to take down a higher power, you know?
I mean, Bad Batch is just following the Clone Wars. That's just following that narrative.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, if we have yet to see if it actually really concludes it in any meaningful way. So I'm going to hold my judgment on it till 2 weeks from now.
We'll see.
Should we get into the hot takes, per se?
I think it's time.
I think so, too.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is hot takes time. I've got like a warm take. This show and Ahsoka just proved to me that, like, as much as I wanted this like weekly excitement and as much as it is interesting to like have something to look forward to every week, a new episode dropping, I think Disney Plus should just go to dropping entire seasons. Like, I'm tired of just like waiting for something to happen, just treading water for weeks and weeks and weeks, especially if there is like practically nothing towards the end like Ahsoka did.
Yeah.
It's just Disney Plus should just copy Netflix. I'm okay with the world has changed. Let's just move on. TV is dead. Streaming, just make it. It's a streaming show. Let's just embrace that.
No. Star Wars has always been an episodic. We've always had to wait for the next episode. It would not be Star Wars if it wasn't. The only reason, like Visions, that's the exception. Like, that's Star Wars, but it's not canon Star Wars. And it's just like, there's a lot of changing, but let's not change too.
Okay, but what if they did it the Love is Blind way, where they release like a batch of 5 episodes, and then you have to wait a couple weeks, and then they're like, here's all of them except for the finale, and then they wait a couple weeks, and then they're like, then you have like this big event that it's like, now on this date the last 2 episodes are dropping. That would be fun, because I mean, and this is what, like, I've watched Love is Blind, and I like that setup for that reason, that I can watch a couple episodes and get to like sort of like a chapter that ends, and like then you're kind of telling a little bit more of like a segmented story.
I would be a lot more engaged if they dropped 3 at a time. I think 3 would be perfect. Maybe even 2 would do a lot more for me. It would make the story seem like it's moving a lot faster, seem like it's going somewhere. But now I just kind of feel like an idiot. I feel like I've been duped. I feel like I've been lied to by
Like
Disney.
every
and I'm just
week, you're like, this one's gonna be like.
I'm telling all my friends about it. Yeah, I've been like, I got my friend who's just been absolutely anti-Disney since Last Jedi. He just rejected everything. I finally got him to start watching The Bad Batch, and now I might be embarrassed. I don't know. It's like I'll try not to brag on it too much till it's over, because I want to give it its fair chance, and I'll watch it 2 or 3 times before really coming to a settled opinion. But like as it stands right now, I'm just kind of over it.
Well, I agree with your take, personally.
I agree with you too.
I mean, it was fun to, like, you know, when Stranger Things season, was it 3 or 4? I don't remember which one it was. When that one dropped, the hype was like at its peak, and my roommates and I just stayed up all night just binging it. And that's just an experience that we might never have with Star Wars again. I don't know. So was that a Roger?
It's a Roger.
Okay, I've got a hot take, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier about our, especially Brody, like not having a big emotional connection to the clones, but that is never more true than with Echo, who I feel is the most boring clone, despite having kind of the coolest backstory and like cyberpunked out like kit. He came back on screen this episode, and I was like, I really don't even care. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel this like emotional like happiness, or like, oh, there's Echo, like our buddy. I'm so glad to see him. I feel empty inside.
Yikes.
So your take is you don't like Echo?
Yeah, Echo, and Echo's like the most boring clone.
The most boring clone.
Yeah.
The way Brian made that sound, that's just milquetoast to me.
I love Wrecker, but he is automatically the most boring.
Is he the most boring, or is he the worst? I'm not saying the worst. I'm saying the most boring.
He's the most boring. There's not a lot to his story. He's a technician.
Wrecker.
He's the muscle. He's the comedy. Echo, like you said, has the backstory. He's our connection to Rex. I think that makes him instantly more interesting than Wrecker. And
He's boring.
I think his robot arm is super freaking cool. I love that he can just plug into computers and do something really unique that other organics you never see him do. And I think Hunter is such a boring character in this season. Like Hunter should have died with Tech, honestly. Like that's like there's no
I agree with that too.
It's just so I don't know. I'm gonna disagree with you. Say Echo is not the most boring clone in this show. It is definitely Hunter.
No.
Brody, how do you feel?
Oh, it's
Fool! Your take is milk toast.
All right, my hot take. All right, so the Bad Batch is what the Clone Wars should have been. Here, let me explain. The story should have been revolving around the clones themselves, not the story of Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano. They can be a part of it, but they should have centered the Clone Wars around the struggle of being a clone during that time period. Because we get the perspective of the Jedi, we get the perspective of the Senate. We already get those in those 3 movies. Why are we not focusing on the guys that are on the ground? Give me like Umbara is a great representation of that. Zygerian Slave Arc is another kind of a one that also does that as well. But I think the perspectives that we get on the Bad Batch themselves, I think we should have gotten in the Clone Wars.
That's a good point. I even think back to the very first episode of the Clone Wars, Ambush, where
Squad. Yeah.
like Yoda even talks about each of them, like what they bring to like their individual unique talents. And I remember being very touched by that and how that episode was able to stand on its own without, I mean, yeah, it does have Ventress in it, but it was centered around the clones. And
Yep.
I hear your sentiment. And I think the take is a little milquetoast though.
You're just saying that because your take was milquetoast.
I mean, let's be real though. Think about it. Like, should it have been all about Obi-Wan, Anakin?
But then we wouldn't have had
Was it
so
even
many...
about them? I think they get pretty equal weight as the clones do. Like, I feel like Clone Wars to me is like a pretty weak show. Okay, wait. Let me backtrack. I mean, like without any like central focus like that, like seeing Anakin do dark side things is not character progression. Like you're just like hinting that it's happening, but it's not like he's like progressing towards going to the dark side. It's like season 1 he stabs someone, season 2 he chokes someone, season 3 he bombs someone. You know, like I don't find Anakin's arc very interesting. And if anyone has an arc, like maybe it's Ahsoka. I don't even. There's really not much character progression at all. So I agree that like Clone Wars would have been a lot more effective if it had, you know, if it had stuck around with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka, or with the clones, if it had more focus.
If it was focused on Cody and Rex specifically.
That's just too much of them. Like, I think we would all get way burnt out of kind of the same situation.
But like, there's so many clones. You could have had a arc of Republic Commandos where we're with Republic Commandos. We're with Wolf. We're with Rex. We get Gregor. We get like those that I think they should have centered it around like they are with the Bad Batch. Each kind of character gets their
each
season.
Season's like a different like
each season is with a different like, and you can have Jedi show up and be kind of like
I love that.
That helped them get that behind. That's what the Clone Wars should have been. Bad Batch is doing that because they are able to focus on just the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Okay, you converted me. I agree.
I agree with that. Brody, you got one cooking?
Oh, I don't even know if it's hot anymore. Just everything that this show is, everything that Star Wars is, where are we going? Like, where are we actually going right now? Because I'm on a ride, and it's like here's what it feels like. It feels like I'm at Walt Disney World, and someone made me wait 3 hours in line for Slinky Dog Dash. And I'm on that ride.
Slinky, yeah, that ride slaps. Okay,
now,
I would say 3 hours for Slinky
slaps. Everyone says it's the GOAT. Everyone says it's amazing. And that's like when the first people walk out of a movie and you're hearing about how great it is and you're all excited, and then you get on that ride. Something stopped. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Here's the problem, though. The ride stopped when I'm upside down.
Oh, no.
So now I'm sitting here waiting and thinking to myself, how long is it going to be? I'm trying to adjust things, and I'm trying to stay positive because Slinky Dog Dash now is apparently amazing. And so before I know it, without any warning, the ride just gets going again. We round ourselves back. This didn't actually happen to me, by the way. And it rounds itself all the way back, and we get in. We feel exhausted. We feel nauseated. Everyone in line is just, because they're excited to get on, even though they just saw what happened. For some reason, they're in line. All these Star Wars haters that are just like, F this. They saw exactly what happened, but you're still here wanting more. Next thing I know, I'm off that ride, disoriented, dazed, and confused. And Disney says, before you walk out, make sure you hit up the gift shop.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I feel like I just like got rescued from like a terrorist organization wearing like a bag and a blanket. And I think to myself, what just happened? That's what it feels like every time I watch Star Wars now. It's not good. It's not bad. It just kind of is.
Is this your resignation?
It's not a resignation. I'm just
Are you sure?
I'm just confused. And to all the people who have actually been rescued from terrorist organizations, my apologies here, because I'm sure there's a lot worse than watching Star Wars.
The large portion of our listeners that
very triggering for me.
relate.
Yeah, the majority of our listenership. But I will say, I'm confused what's going on, and I just don't think there's a plan. And I know there always is, but the fact that it always moves, I think Kathleen Kennedy is lost. And Bob Iger is just shuffling.
Here's the problem with your take, buddy. She has very little to do with what stories are being written.
I don't know. All right.
Very little. She is literally there to sign off
and make sure the people get paid.
Make sure production gets paid off. Make sure the money is coming in. She is not in every single little deal, getting her hands on it, because if she were to do that, it would be even worse.
She
knows her role.
You don't think there's anything that she signs off on when it comes to an approval process? You don't think Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, you don't think there's some
those are the people that you should be mad at, not Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, no. I'm throwing their asses in there too. Those Joe Schmoes have no idea how to tell a coherent story in this Star Wars universe. Jon Favreau, shame on you, sir. You know dang well what you're doing. So I almost half wonder if you're just trying to sell such a crappy product that you're just trying to get out of your contract with Disney, because I know dang well that you are capable of competent works. Elf.
Oh, masterpiece.
Iron Man.
True.
Which was Disney.
Not
where are you going with it? Where are you going with this?
Listen, I'm just saying, I know he's competent, and I don't know what's going on with the Mandoverse. Ahsoka was vanilla, and I want to like it, but I'm just confused. I don't hate it. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just lost, and I think the head writers, screenwriters, producers, executive producers, people up top, they're like, yeah, they'll like this.
Can we talk about also, since we're on this tangent, how The Mandalorian and Grogu is like legitimately the press title of the movie, like not like a placeholder. Like they've on StarWars.com have called it The Mandalorian and Grogu.
But why are we?
Sorry, all of you fired. All of them.
But are we really surprised? That's the main focus.
That's what the fans said they wanted.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
We should stop listening to the fans. That's what I've been saying for years. Fans don't know anything. And putting a fan in charge of a project like Dave Filoni, he's the biggest Star Wars fan involved. Like,
see, here's
it's going, and the thing is, they can't afford for it to flop, and it's going to flop.
We'll see, because people are going, and this is my friend Chase said this. They are never ever going to. It's going to have to be a 50-year time jump. They are never going to let Grogu age, because he sells like hot toys.
I will make a life bet with anybody here. $50 is all I can afford. That that The Mandalorian and Grogu will flop embarrassingly.
How much? Give it a number and I'll take it. Give it a number and I will take it.
Like
over under flop? over under. How much money does it have to make?
It has
and we're talking whole run. We're talking whole run now.
Yeah, I'm saying that if it's not going to meet its expense.
I bet it exceeds.
Crazy, Amanda.
I bet it
crazy
exceeds.
Town. Listen.
I'll take that bet. I'll take the $50. Come on, shake my hand.
I might have $50 by then. I don't know.
Amanda, you just lost $50. Hey, what else are you looking to burn today?
Yeah.
I'll get
I just like The Mandalorian has already lost so many viewers like in
Yeah.
the last
Oh
season.
yeah, drop off between 2 and 3.
Huge drop off. It doesn't have the same pull that it did. If you would have maybe announced that right after season 1, we'd have a different conversation. But at
You're
this
missing
point,
one thing
especially
here.
with something as you're literally telling us the story as Mandalorian and Grogu, like that's so dumb. That's so
Yeah.
dumb. You are limiting the story in so many ways just off of the title. Literally no creativity. Also, if it's really the alignment that they have like Star Wars centered and then
This should have
Mandalorian
been
centered
her
and then
hot
and
take.
Grogu is right aligned, like it's gonna break my designer brain.
So
I don't think any Disney Star Wars project has seemed less promising than The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I have always hated just naming the movies or the shows after the characters. But I mean, they did have a plan at some point. They were going somewhere, and I think it's just all the conflict and the controversy after season 2. They clearly just shifted tones, but that's why, again, like I'm so excited for the Acolyte. Let's just do something new. Let's just pave some new
I think
roads.
the Acolyte's going to be
characters.
good.
It could be
Yes.
bad still. It could still be low
It's-
quality, but like, I don't know. At least they're trying, right? At least they're not just
Are they?
banking on nostalgia. At least they're not just banking on
I have
familiar
no idea
characters.
what's going on with this. So I mean, if you tell me it's good, I'll
So-
believe you. I won't watch the
so
trailer.
it's set in a completely different era of Star Wars. It's way before the Phantom Menace. There's going to be more Jedi. There's going to be lightsabers. That's going to be the biggest selling point. And
Oh,
that's
so it's
probably
gonna be
what
like
In Kung Fu.
in Kung Fu, and
Yeah.
it's there and one of the directors, and I cannot wait for everybody's take on this. She said that they wanted to have a lightsaber duel that topped Darth Maul and Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
Which, if you are a creative and you are trying to do stuff like that, you want people to make that comment. You want these lightsaber fights to be extravagant. You want them to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
And creators are taking that as a slight.
Mm.
And these creators knew damn well who they are. And you know what? That's fine. No, not you.
Oh.
A guy named Star Wars Theory who likes to pump his iron and
he's
make
so awesome.
fanfics.
He's my least favorite person on the planet.
Yo, trust me.
Why do
it's
we
bad.
dislike him? He's such a good. He's so
He's
nice.
such a
Oh
good
my
guy.
gosh.
But
He's-
no, Amanda, here's where you are wrong
Ah,
about The Mandalorian and Grogu flopping. It will be the first Star Wars movie to come out in theaters in 5 years. That right there alone, Star Wars in theaters. You have to think about what happened between the end of the prequels to The Force Awakens. People want to see Star Wars on the big screen, no
I
matter
do.
what the title is.
Yeah, for
That
me-
is where that's going to happen.
I will
For me, a
I will
flop-
not.
A flop to me means I'm only going to see it 5 times in theaters instead of 12. That's what a flop is to me in Star Wars. But like, you know,
I'm also
trying,
really
I'll try
excited
my
for
best
Rey's
to hate on
movie.
it like everyone else.
Rey's movie is going to be interesting. I think
it'll be cool.
I'm way more
really
excited
excited
for
for
Rey's
that one
movie.
actually.
And
Are we?
James
And it's not
James-
Rey's movie either. That's we gotta clarify that.
But
Rey's
it
in
is!
it. It's not her.
That's what it's
movie.
going to be called.
But
It's
it
going to be called
is
Star
Rey-
Wars
Star Wars
Rey's
Rey
movie.
God, that would be great. No, but I also am really excited for James Mangold's Beginning of the Jedi, Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That, and because they got the writer who did the One Way Out in Andor.
Oh yeah, I
He's
saw
right.
that.
He's gonna help write that movie. So
That could be
it's-
cool. I'm not a
it's gonna
huge
be
fan of origin stories.
cool.
I don't think everything and everyone needs an origin story, but like, especially because I feel like it limits you when you set the bookend there, right? It's like, okay, now we
Yeah.
have this technology can't progress this much. It's like this. I don't know. I feel like you're restricting yourself when you go that far back, and I'd rather
That's
just
fair.
see something
Hmm.
ancient-ish. But like, I don't know. Hopefully, it'll be cool. Good
That's
people
my
working
number
on it.
one.
Yeah.
That it goes Mangold, Rey, and then Mandalorian Grogu.
So what was your hot take, Brady?
Well, forever ago,
Oh,
I
you
just
don't know what
said
it's
everyone up top is lost.
Mm.
Then you are lost.
I
Everyone.
disagree.
That's
I got a
about
bad feeling about this.
The button's not working,
I got a
but
bad feeling about this hot take.
I tried.
Oh, viewership tripled as soon as you mentioned Kathleen Kennedy. That's just what gets views on.
Yeah. We should just start every episode with Kathleen Kennedy, Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson, Star Wars Theory,
Say all of the things.
SEO words out there. Yeah.
Luke Bryan.
all
I
of
hate
the
Luke
things.
Bryan.
We need
Don't
the views.
ever say Luke Bryan in my presence. ever.
Brian
You
Luke.
don't like Luke Bryan? He's
No,
your
he's the
namesake.
worst.
He's both of your
That's
namesakes.
that's the number one reason why I don't like him. He is fake as hell. I hate him.
Wow. Wait, I said he was your namesake. How does that have to do with him being fake? What's
He's
the
fake.
story there?
He's a fake guy.
Is
This
he?
is a Star Wars podcast. This isn't
He's
a
a clone.
country 101 podcast.
Okay, well, most of the people on this are from everyone except one of us is from New Jersey. Wait, everyone is
I am
from the South or
Nebraska.
Midwest except for one person from New Jersey.
Oh.
So, come on, let's talk country music for a second.
Why the hell?
No,
would
I think we've
want
gone
to?
long enough.
That's
I
fair.
think
How
we
long
can
have we
end the
gone?
podcast there.
Guys, we've gone for 1 hour. Well, you know what we've done in this hour? We've done exactly what the Bad Batch has done. We've accomplished nothing.
Nothing.
Around it.
Nothing.
We've had a lot of fun.
I've had good times.
We've had great times.
We've had a
My
good
hair's
laugh.
looking great.
It's
Christian
been
was
fun.
in the comments. He said something today.
Oh.
Yes, you
And
did.
then he
Was?
did what he
Where?
does.
Oh, Christian. Oh, there we
Left
go.
us.
Did this. Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
But that is this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. For folks who want more info, where do they go, guys? What do they do?
dueloftheranks.com
That's our
And-
Discord,
and our Discord.
which
Yeah.
is in our YouTube description. It should be in our podcast episode descriptions as well. I've added
It
that
will
to
be
the
in there?
bottoms.
and on the
Yes.
The
website.
bottoms.
And you should subscribe to our YouTube channel
We have
because
one of those.
every week we're going to have a different set of co-hosts. So we get a little mix up
Fresh
each time.
perspective.
Find your
Yep.
favorite flavor, whatever it is
Yeah.
that you are looking for. We've got it. Somebody somewhere that you're gonna jive with.
You can
Not me?
join the A team, as my fans call it, Team Amanda.
Mm.
I'm okay
Yeah.
being the B team.
Hold on. Why do I automatically not get to be the B team, Brian?
Because you're like just a hater.
That so? What does that have to do with me not being a B squad player?
I'm not sure.
And Luke's the L team?
Well, technically
No,
BRI comes before
no.
BRO.
Because we all we do is catch dubs. We're the W team. Sorry.
You just catch dubs. I got it.
Catch
yeah.
dubs.
It's been a while since I've seen any W in Star Wars. Sometime.
If you look hard enough, you have an open mind.
You gotta
Maybe
squint.
You
Yeah.
might be
You
able
look
to
hard
see
enough.
it.
Just like they aren't cooking, but they maybe, or they're cooking ramen noodles, not a full 8-course meal.
It's not an
you know?
8. Yeah, it's not an 18-course meal that you got in France at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Wow.
Which I'm
That's
actually going to be making myself some ramen noodles momentarily.
Good for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a healthy meal. I had Buffalo Wild Wings.
I
Let's
It's a
go
yummy
sports ball.
love sports ball.
Sports
Anyway.
ball. Good game. All right, everyone. Well, that's this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. Someone want to hit end recording, and we'll just see all the people who follow us
Guy.
in 2 weeks. Oh no, next week. We'll
Next
see
week.
next week.
In
Yeah.
one week.
Next week.
This
We'll
isn't a
catch you
bi-weekly show.
Bye.
It's weekly. Bye.
On the next one. See ya.